there, storytellers. Welcome back to my channel. Today's second to last vlogging video is going to be my October wrap-up. I read 7 books total in the month of October, and while I deviated from my TBR, I did replace some of those deviations with other reads, so I did some reading. I didn't get to all of my TBR, but that's okay, because I at least enjoyed myself. But without any further ado, let's just get right on into it. No particular order or rhyme or reason. We're just going to cover what I read. So I believe I talked about most of these books in other videos at some point. So if I have, I will link the other videos. I'm not going to take a lot of time to talk about the ones that I've mentioned elsewhere. So just click the other videos if you haven't already watched them and haven't already heard me talk about these books. But the first book I finished in October was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I gave this book a 5 stars. I loved it. I already loved the movie adaptation from the 90s with Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder, but it deviates from the book a little bit, and I did talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the deviation in my 5x5 review, so like I said, go click it. The one thing I didn't love about it was that Dracula wasn't as much of a main character as you would expect from the book being named after him, but it was more about these other characters' experiences, their collective experience with Dracula. That is the story. So that's what you get through this epistolary novel in its gothic horror glory. But I do really love it, and I actually like Mina a lot more as a character in the book. So if you have any qualms with how she's represented in film, give it a read if you haven't already. The next book I completed in October was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and by Washington Irving, and I did listen to this one on audiobook, and because I listened at double speed, it flew by in like half an hour. I think it's only an hour max, even if you're not listening on double speed. It's a really, really short read, and I unfortunately thought that the novel was going to have more detail. I somehow got it in my mind that I was missing out on part of the story from what I sort of remembered hearing of it as a kid, and I learned I was wrong. I gave it 4 stars. I think it was fine. You probably already know the whole story anyway, so I don't know that you need to read it yourself. The next novel that I read in October was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. This is a graphic novel following Deja and Josie, 2 friends working at a pumpkin patch over the fall, and it's their senior year of high school, so it's their sort of last hurrah of sorts. I used this book as inspiration for my pumpkin bomb cookies, which were fantastic, and I highly recommend you both read this graphic novel and make those cookies because they're both deliciously sweet and full of innocent, fun fall vibes. The next book I read was another graphic novel. It is called Grimoire Noir by Vera Green Tea and Yana Bogach. This novel follows a boy named Bucky as he's looking for his missing 8-year-old sister. They live in a town where all the women are witches and are sort of trapped within the town for their own protection from the outside world. Basically, there's a whole secret plot happening in the background that Bucky sort of misses because he is artfully misguided the entire time. It's a really intense and really complex kind of novel for something so short. I feel like usually the plot doesn't have so many layers built into such a short time span, but it was really well done, and I really loved the illustration style. I'm actually thinking about buying it for myself. I borrowed a copy from the library, which is why I don't have it now, but I really enjoyed it that much that I'm thinking about buying it so that I can give it a reread next year because it had some perfect mystery, witchy fall vibes going for it. The next book was another graphic novel, and it was called Anyas Ghost by Vera Brogzal. This novel follows a girl named Anya who sort of does everything she can to be cool and fit in, as she is from Russia and does not like to be acknowledged as foreign or other. She falls down a hole one day and encounters a ghost. Because things seem all hunky-dory at first, Anya doesn't notice the sort of growing warning signs, but things take a turn for the worst with her supernatural visitor. Through this conflict and her sort of final resolvement of it, Anya sort of learns to accept herself and who she is and where she comes from. It was a really intense take on sort of embrace who you are and don't let anything define you but yourself. It managed to surprise me even though I saw everything coming, if that makes sense. It was just more intense than I expected it to be. So I highly recommend it. This one and Grimoire Noir I gave 5 stars too. They were perfect October vibes for sure. The next novel I finished in October was Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. This novel follows Nimue, who's a character in Arthurian legend, as she encounters sort of Excalibur, the sword of destiny, the sword of first kings in her world, and she's tasked with giving it to Merlin, but along the way she starts to wield the sword's power, and at some point the sword starts to wield her. I was mildly disappointed by this book, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted so much to really love this book. I was so excited when I heard the concept of a book that follows Nimue, because she's very rarely a character that gets focused on. She kind of shows up, but that's it. And I was so intrigued to see her followed, and she was my least favorite character, which was so disappointing because it's her novel. Not so disappointed that I'd be deterred from giving a second book a try. It does leave off in a way that leaves room for a second book. I would like to see some real growth in Nimue if that were the case. I think I gave it a 3.5. Apart from me not loving Nimue, I did like a lot of the side characters, but the 3.5 came from not being able to emotionally connect with the main character, and in part that was due to writing choices that were made that felt sort of amateur. I didn't like the delivery of a lot of the emotional moments. It felt more like this is what they are doing rather than me being able to see and feel and smell and hear, so to speak, what's going on, because all of that's being described so that I'm emotionally in the moment with them. It was just me being told what the emotional impact was for these characters, and I just didn't like that. I think if you're a more plot and less emotional character-driven reader, you might really like this, because plot-wise, it was pretty good. I didn't have any qualms with the way things were going. It left off on a really kind of cool cliffhanger plot-wise, so that would be enough to keep me going if another book came out. But like I said, to me, I need some more connection with Nimue. And the last book I got to in October, I also already talked about, and that was Fangirl, the manga by Rainbow Rowell, adapted by Sam Maggs. I love Fangirl, so I loved Fangirl, the manga. All the emotional moments were there. I didn't feel like I was missing anything that helps drive the story along. I really loved it. I loved seeing the characters sort of come to life for me, because there they were in visual format. That was kind of cool. It was kind of like reading a movie. I'm planning to do another reread of the actual novel in November during NaNoWriMo season. I know I just read this, but I'm going to reread the novel too still, so that's how much I love this. Again, 5 stars. But that is it for all the books I got to in October. I'm definitely not going to finish one in the next day or so because I have stuff to do, and I know I just won't get anything done. So I'm capping it off there. I don't think 7's a bad amount of books to read in a month. It's certainly more than I've done per month in a very long time, so I'm happy with it. For now, those were all the books I got to in October. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like down below, and if you want to keep up with me and all of my bookish adventures, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button, and you should definitely ring the little bell so that you don't miss the very last beat of Vlogoween, which will be coming to you tomorrow. I will see you then. Bye!